Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the ranking member both for your leadership on this issue. We know that 50 years ago, January of 1964, I believe, President Lyndon Johnson came to the floor of the House of Representatives before a joint session of Congress and declared a war on poverty. That war on poverty has largely been successful in helping millions of Americans lift themselves out of an impoverished condition and set on a pathway toward the middle class. But, of course, there's still a long way to go, although it does seem in this town that there are some more interested in a war on working families than a war on poverty. But that's something that we're going to ultimately have to overcome as well. In the context of this present hearing, I thought I'd start with Ms. Reynolds just to kind of explore the perspective that you've laid out. As I believe, I guess in your experience, you've laid out 3 broad categories of poverty. Is that correct?
Correct.
And those 3 categories are chronic, generational, and situational poverty, correct? Now, I guess your view is that with respect to each category, there's a different preferred strategy in order to arrive at a successful resolution. Is that true?
Correct.
And I think you've testified that you believe generational poverty requires a mindset adjustment, correct?
Sometimes situational poverty can require that as well. Okay.
And can you elaborate just on sort of the mindset that you believe exists in the context of what you describe as generational poverty?
Yeah.
And what type of adjustment you believe needs to be made?
Yeah. Sometimes people in poverty have been beat down in a lot of things. They've tried to get up and fallen back down. In addition to that, some people living in poverty have maybe never seen a different side of life, have never seen what opportunities exist, or frankly never believe in themselves that they can get there.
If I can stop you there. Mm-hmm. Individuals trapped in generational poverty are beat down by what would be an example of something that has beat them down to create this type of mindset?
Mm-hmm. It can be a whole series of things. It could be a lack of opportunities. It can be observing others. It can be a family member. We see that often sometimes too.
So now is it fair to say that individuals trapped in generational poverty aren't just affected by a mindset, but it's a mindset that was initially brought up by substantive barriers or obstacles that they confronted in their life?
Absolutely.
Okay. And with one of those substantive barriers, because you define success, I guess, in 3 different ways. Making a wage to support the family, correct, was one indicia of success. 3 months of savings, a second indicia of success. And then I think no debt is a third.
And no public assistance.
No public assistance,
right.
Okay.
4.
Now, with respect to sort of the current minimum wage that exists in America, $7.25 per hour, right? Now, is that a wage that enables a family or an individual to lift themselves out of poverty?
No.
In your view? So, based on your own practice, I believe, where you support the concept of a living wage, do you think that it's good public policy in America to have a wage that exists to allow individuals working hard 40 days, 40 hours a week throughout an entire year to actually be able to support their family?
Sir, being in Fort Worth, Texas, and being with Catholic Charities Fort Worth, and I'll speak on behalf of Catholic Charities Fort Worth, our focus has not been on policy reform at the federal level because there are multiple complexities with that. For us, our focus has been making sure clients are trained in jobs that pay a living wage.
Okay,
That's
right.
our focus. And encouraging local corporate responsibility, which we have great partnerships with corporations who do pay living wages, but then also support our mission in an incredible way.
Okay, but a living wage is good public policy, correct?
A living wage is an important element to get a client to.
Okay. Now, I think you also mentioned in your testimony the importance of a college education in addressing poverty. Is that correct?
Not just college education, no, sir. Associate degree and certification programs can also help our local community, but getting an associate's degree to become an aviation mechanic, you start out $50,000, $60,000 a year. That's moving families out of poverty as well as a growth industry in the DFW marketplace.
But in terms of pathway out of poverty,
yes,
a college education is an important component, if not the best way to achieve that pathway. True?
Education, yes, always important.
Okay. Do you think a $260 billion cut in higher education funding is a responsible way to address poverty in America?
What I'm concerned about is the results that happens with those dollars. So what I want to make sure happens is any money we're investing in college, Pell Grants, anything like that, that it's having a large return. That's why we have invested in case management along with low-income individuals to ensure graduation. Because if we're spending money on college and completion never happens, it doesn't get people out to a point of self-sufficiency and out of poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Kilby.